Now Toyota's Innova, it's pretty much defined the people mover category ever since it was launched, which is over 6 years ago. That's a long time. And whether it's families or tour operators, the Innova has delivered on space, comfort, performance, efficiency at such levels that its healthy price tag has been justified. Others have come and tried to topple it. They've tried to take the Innova head on, but not with complete success. But now there is a new entrant. This one is from Maruti, the Ertiga. It's also aiming for the leader, but it's approaching it from a slightly different angle. In terms of styling, these two are very different. Clearly, the Innova looks like an MPV, and a big one at that. In its latest avatar, the upright headlamps and grille have tried to shake off the MPV tag, and to some extent, it has worked. The Ertiga, in comparison, doesn't strike you as a van. It seems more like a mutant hatch. Design-wise, it is a mix of Maruti Suzuki's existing lineup. The headlamps remind you of the Swift. The nose, which is the grille and the bumper, remind you of the Ritz, while the rear with the small tail lamps does look quite plain. But it has its own dose of aggression. Just look at those big wheel arches. And there's a long crease along the side that tries to mask 274cm stretch between the wheels. Now, standing next to the Innova, the Ertiga doesn't feel as big. In terms of length, it's 32cm less. It is narrower by 7cm and it is 3cm shorter than the Innova. And you can feel the difference when you have to step in. The body-on-frame design of the Innova means you have to step up to get in. The Ertiga, which is built around a stretched version of the Swift's monocoque platform, lets you just drop into the cabin, just like in any car. The Ertiga's cabin, for that matter, is very car-like and very familiar. That's because it borrows heavily from the Swift. The dashboard is identical, which means design is quite contemporary and build quality is good too. However, the features list is a bit short in this comparison. There's no Bluetooth connectivity, automatic climate control, or reversing camera. But what really catches you off guard is the amount of space available on the inside. The front seats have a lot of room, enough even for the tallest drivers. The middle row also has a huge amount of knee room. Sliding the middle seats can increase or decrease knee room by a massive 24cm. This is the Ertiga's trump card. It manages to create enough room for everybody. Well, when it comes to the third row, it's the Ertiga that's offering you the better backseat experience. I mean, the second row moves around so much, you can really get a lot of knee room here in the back. But setting a nice compromise, as long as you're regular sized people, of course, you can get good space in the middle row of seats and in the third row of seats. You certainly get a lot of under-thigh support, and the seats can genuinely be used by adults. Although getting in and out isn't simple. But with the third row of seats up, luggage space in the Ertiga is minimal. If you tuck away the third row, there's 735 liters of luggage space on offer. The Innova, with its third row down, has more boot space. It also has the flexibility of folding away just one seat. And with both seats folded away, you get a massive 758 liters of storage. But the third row in the Innova isn't as good as the Ertiga. Actually, it misses out on thigh support and the knee room isn't all that great either. But in the second row, there's lots of knee room, and in one regard, it is clearly better than the Ertiga. If you, like me, are from a khate peete ghar ka family type of person, then you'll really appreciate the extra width that the Innova has to offer. The seats are very comfortable with the right kind of firmness to cut out fatigue on long journeys. At the front, you get a familiar looking dashboard. Its design is plainer than the Ertiga's unit, but it feels tougher and capable of withstanding a lot of abuse. Also, when it comes to features, this top-of-the-line VX Innova boasts of Bluetooth connectivity, automatic climate control, a reversing camera, and a dedicated compressor for the rear passengers. So these two cars are built differently, and their strengths differ too, without really trumping the other. Now let's see how these two fare out on the road. Starting with the Innova. Now, while you can imagine the Innova being at home on the highway, it is also meant to be a city vehicle for families. The 2.5-litre diesel motor's 100 bhp of power and easily accessible 20.4 kgm of torque make the Innova well suited for the urban crawl. The Innova's motor is really civil. Low down in the rev range, it feels very responsive. So even if you're in stop-go traffic, it's really a breeze. The 5-speed gearbox is easy to use, although it has a long throw. While it will keep pace with slow-moving traffic easily, wriggling through city traffic and finding the right size parking spot will be a bit bothersome for this big MPV. Meanwhile, the Ertiga with its compact dimensions will be more at home on the crowded city roads and in packed parking lots. Its smaller 1.3-litre motor develops 90 bhp, and that's thanks to a big turbo. But that will cause a bit of a problem in urban traffic. In the city, the Ertiga's motor won't feel entirely at home, and that's because of the massive turbo lag. It really kicks in only at 2000 RPM. Under that, it's not that it's dead, but it does feel quite dull. So in stop-go conditions, the Ertiga will require frequent gear changes and will also need the revs to be kept up, especially if you have a full load of passengers. But one thing that the passengers will appreciate is the Ertiga's ride quality. The Ertiga suspension is soft, so at low speeds in the city, you're going to find it really nice and cushy. It'll just soak up those bumps and potholes with complete ease. The Innova suspension is a bit firmer and doesn't feel as absorbent as the Ertiga on broken roads at low speeds. So if you choose to drive in the city, the Innova will feel better to drive, although it will be hampered by its size. The Ertiga's tighter dimensions will make it easier to slip through traffic, and ride quality is very cushy. But the engine feels a bit lethargic at lower speeds. But will the Ertiga fend off the Innova as the speeds rise and the roads open up? Sadly, despite its displacement and power advantage, the Innova doesn't feel relaxed at triple-digit speeds. The short gearing that makes it so drivable in the city takes a toll on the highway. Its sweet spot is at the 80 km mark. Beyond that, the Innova feels a bit strained and the diesel injection noise is clearly audible in the cabin. The Ertiga, despite its smaller engine, feels a lot more at home on the open roads. Once the strong wave of power and torque kicks in, the Ertiga really feels very responsive, and it's this strong mid-range that makes it feel so effortless to drive, once you've got going out on the highway. Between the two is the Ertiga's motor that feels more relaxed at triple-digit speeds. Since the Ertiga is almost half a ton lighter than the Innova, its performance in a straight line is really quite sprightly. From standstill, the Ertiga will hit the 60 km mark a second sooner than the Innova. And by the time you hit 100, the gap will have had widened to well over 3 seconds. And its drivability is quite impressive too. From 20 to 80 km an hour in third gear, the Ertiga is quicker by 3 seconds. And in the fourth gear slog from 40 to 100, the mid-range is used to great effect, with the Ertiga being almost 7 seconds faster. Even at higher speeds, the Ertiga continues to impress with a fairly calm attitude. Although, without a full load, this Maruti did bob around a bit. I was expecting it to handle like a car too. After all, it is built around a monocoque chassis. However, the softer suspension gives it a bit of body roll, and around corners it isn't as steady as the Innova. So when it comes to handling, it's the Innova that has the advantage. Around corners it just feels a bit more confident, a bit more stable, and when you're on the highway, it just feels completely nonplussed. And that's not all. The Innova just feels more settled at higher speeds. And the Innova just doesn't get phased, whether you're driving on poor roads or no roads at all. Now, an important factor is the efficiency of these two vehicles. The Ertiga has a fuel efficiency of 12.8 kilometers per litre in the city and 16.8 out on the highway, while the Innova returns 10.3 kilometers per litre in the city and 13.8 out on the highway. Now, when it comes to price, the Ertiga's top-end diesel variant costs 9.61 lakh rupees on-road Delhi, while the Innova's GX variant, which is a close match for the Ertiga ZDI, costs about 13.7 lakhs. But it misses out on some must-have features like an airbag for the passengers and alloy wheels, for which you will need to reach for the VX variant. This variant also includes the touchscreen music system, reversing camera and Bluetooth connectivity, but it costs a whopping 6 lakh rupees more than the Ertiga ZDI. So the winner today of our mega comparison test is the Maruti Suzuki Ertiga. And not because it's a comprehensively better machine than the Innova, because it isn't. But on most counts, it really manages to worry the Innova. And in some areas, it even manages to do better. In critical areas, there's a constant to and fro between the two vehicles. When it comes to the engine, the Innova has drivability, the Ertiga has punch and highway cruising ability. When it comes to the suspension, the Ertiga has ride comfort, while the Innova offers you great highway stability. When it comes to space, you've got really nice flexible setup in there, along with a really great third row of seats, while the Innova has that little bit more in terms of width. So really, it's a close call between the two, but the Ertiga makes a solid case for itself. Its tighter proportions and its driving experience is just so car-like that it feels less intimidating. And on top of that, the price tag. For a car that offers so much of what the Innova is offering, at a price that's 30 to 40% lower, the Ertiga is just incredible value.